Hello, good morning and welcome to NewsX. We're live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125, across all our social media handles. We are doing news on TV. Coming up within the next 60 minutes, feasible or a political promise. We'll analyze President John Dramani Mahama's promise to run his government with just 60 ministers as he makes his first 3 ministerial appointments. Also on the show, traditional leaders at Oing vow to ensure that they hand over illegal miners to state prosecutors as they reaffirm their commitment to the fight against illegal mining. We have these plus some business updates here on NewsX. A good time to take a seat and be my guest. Thanks for choosing us. Now, we start with politics. While canvassing for votes in the lead-up to the 2024 presidential election, President John Dramani Mahama, who was then the presidential candidate for the NDC, promised to run a lean government and work with just 60 ministers and deputies. Now, he said this move will ensure a more efficient and effective system of governance while protecting the public purse. Well, let's remind ourselves of some of the things he said on the campaign trail.
Committed to drastically reducing the size of government, and rightly so. This government has sufficiently proven to Ghanaians that with over 120 ministers and deputy ministers, all they could offer was to run our economy aground. I will run a lean, highly effective and efficient government of no more than 60 ministers and deputy ministers. And this is solid proof of my genuine commitment to curbing government expenditure. This leaner government will be the cleanest government Ghana has ever experienced. It will serve Ghanaians far better and set higher standards for future governments. What we have now can obviously never and should never be a yardstick for governance. My goal is to launch a renewed fight against corruption. I'll keep my appointees in check. And Ghanaians can be assured that drastic steps will be taken to punish the corrupt officials and their accomplices in this present administration. No actor in this NPP corruption enterprise will be spared. We'll also take action to repossess what has been unlawfully stolen from the Ghanaian people. As we all know, government procurement is a significant source of corruption, and no economy can sustain inclusive and equitable social and economic well-being with the penchant for public service holders to be self-serving and corrupt, as is currently the case. The use of public finances will always be compliant with our national laws, transparent, justified by contemporary value for money tests, and solely in the interest of the broader citizens. If we want to eliminate corruption, we must increase accountability in government procurement processes. And accountability gives power back to the people. God willing, as the incoming president and leader, I assure the people of Ghana that the NDC is fully committed to accountability. And this is why one of our key policies will be to set up an independent value for money office to scrutinize all government procurements above $5 million threshold, or as shall be recommended by Parliament. Transparency and accountability are the keys to fighting corruption, and we'll fight corruption by creating an office that will dynamically scrutinize all government procurements, coupled with a lean government of no more than 60 ministers and deputies. And I guarantee you that we will come out victorious in this fight against corruption.
Well, now he is president, and having won that election and been sworn in on the 7th of January, he has reaffirmed his pledge that even as thousands of hopefuls and candidates, they submit their CVs to him for consideration, he has reaffirmed his pledge that he will run a lean government. Now, he's been making the point at the presidential dinner just immediately after his inauguration.
Now the difficult part. I cannot do this work alone, and so I have to select some people to join me to be able to deliver the resets that we have promised Ghanaians. And it's coming in at a time when Ghanaians expected a reduction in the size of government. And so you won't want to be in my shoes when you promise to appoint only 60 ministers and you have thousands of people sending their CVs. Definitely some people will be disappointed. But it's not only by playing a role at that level that you can contribute to the success of government. There are many other things that we can all do. And I always say that the success of this administration will guarantee us, another term, maybe under some other leader. But we need to get this right so that Ghanaians will repose the confidence in us and give us another opportunity to continue. So all of us must put our shoulders to the wheel and work as hard as we can in order to achieve this.
President John Dramani Mahama there. Well, today on NewsX, we're looking at how feasible this promise is. Just yesterday, he released the first batch of nominations, 3 individuals that he feels could steer the affairs in the finance ministry, the energy sector, and also the Attorney General. Well, joining me in the studio is Isaac Kofi-Adjei. He's lead data analyst here at Joy News. Isaac, running a lean government, how would this work?
I mean, I'm sure that John Dramani Mahama has looked at this figure on the smart wall right now. We are talking about $84 billion. That's as of 2024. This is how much it takes to run the current 27 ministries that we have, minus the 16 regional ministers. I mean, if we do the math, we add the 16 regional ministers, we should be hovering around, let's say, 85 or 86 billion Ghana cedis. This is the figure that President John Dramani Mahama wants to bring down because he's seen this figure. And if you look at the cost alone, 84 billion cedis is really, really huge. Compare it to how much we even spend on, how much we pay workers and what have you. But the most important thing is that when you're looking at ministries, it's not just about the number of ministers appointed. Is usually about the ministry itself and how much it costs to run the entire ministry, because you'll be moving from compensation of employees, plus other emoluments to cost of goods and services, capital expenditure, and what have you. That is where the main, devil is in terms of the cost estimation. So what we did was that we decided to look at the top 5 most expensive ministries to run at the moment out of the 27. Now, firstly, if you look at the smart wall, you see the top 5 most expensive ministries to run. And I was surprised.
The finance ministry is not there.
Exactly. Yesterday, when we ran the test, I was surprised that there was no finance ministry. Okay. There was no energy ministry. But if you look at this, you would know why these 5 ministries are very expensive to run. A ministry like the Ministry of Education, the free SHS, and many forget that it is even more expensive to run the basic side of education compared to the secondary side. It is the basic side that's the most expensive, comes to secondary, then you decide to talk about tertiary. That is why the Ministry of Education has one of the highest number of employees in the ministry, runs the biggest budget, almost $30 billion in 2024. You come to another ministry that's almost like a cousin to the Ministry of Education, is the Ministry of Health. About 15 or 16 billion Ghana cedis is needed to run the Ministry of Health, and it comes out at the 2nd most expensive ministry to run in the country. Ministry of Interior is third. Exactly. Security. I mean, 8.38 billion Ghana cedis is what it takes to run the Ministry of Interior. Then you also have the Ministry of Roads and Highways, 4. with 4.11 billion, Ghana cedis, and the Ministry of Defense. Definitely, when you see the Ministry of Interior in this, domain, you should be expecting the Ministry of Defense as well. How much does it take to, run the Ministry of Defense? Almost 4 billion Ghana cedis. So, firstly, if you look at these 5 ministries and you add all of them, they take almost more than 30% of maybe the 80 billion that we are even talking about. So the top 5 expensive ministries to run, definitely, we've not seen a new minister for education. There's not been any minister for health. But the appointment of the minister for finance and also, energy shows that these are some of the most important ministries that the president has actually said that, look, we will appoint 60 ministers, but I still want to keep the Ministry of Finance as it is and the Ministry of Health the same way it is. So the next thing we decided to do now is to look at the ministries. I mean, there are some ministries that are set up for administrative purposes. There are some for social purposes, economic purposes, and defense and maybe, infrastructure. So we look at the ministries. If you want to scrap or if you want to combine or merge some of them, you need to do like for like. So let's look at the ministries that are set up for administrative purposes. There are actually 5 ministries, and it takes about 6.3 billion Ghana cedis to run these 5 ministries that we're talking about. If you look at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, I don't see any other ministries that you can actually merge with this ministry, but it takes 1.13 billion Ghana cedis to run that. I mean, the Ministry of Finance, as expected, is here.
That's the ministry that Dr. Kisela Tuforsen has been nominated as designated. We're looking forward to his vetting and how it goes there. But then let's look at the Ministry of Local Government.
Local government, just like maybe Ministry of Finance, you need about 2.61 billion Ghana cedis to run that ministry as well. Information, not really there, but possibly you need somewhere around 268 million Ghana cedis to run the Ministry of Information. Parliamentary Affairs, about 9 million Ghana cedis. So if you look at these 5 ministries for administrative purposes, it is a ministry of, let's say, Parliamentary Affairs that is the smallest in terms of the cost margin. So let's look at it. I mean, I will ask you a question if you want that ministry to be out or to be maintained.
Well,
which one do you think we can merge here?
Looking at John Mahama's plan to run a very lean government. And if you recall, one of the ills of the past administration was the fact that there were just too many ministers. And people were worried about that. I'm thinking, can we merge local government to information?
Yeah, I mean, local government and information, there isn't that connection. But I think that local government and chieftaincy
that can work.
Can be merged. So we'll come to that. But I think that if you are looking at Ministry of Information, it used to be married to another ministry called Communication.
Yes.
So maybe when we come there, we can say, why don't you merge Ministry of Communication and Ministry of Information and still add technology? You still be there. Because just look at the budget, 268 million Ghana cedis is what it takes to run the ministry. So if I'm using the cost alone, it means that this is a ministry that maybe you can decide to do away with. You don't need the whole building to run that. You can merge it with the Ministry of Communication. You've seen the Ministry of Communication, their building, right? It's very big. They have space to accommodate the Ministry of Information. So merge information and communication. So just by doing that, you take away some 68 million Ghana cedis. As for Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, it should go. I mean, 9 million Ghana cedis you already have Parliament and parliamentary service, whatever. I mean, you don't need another ministry to take care of parliamentary affairs. I simply do not understand why this was introduced. So I think that Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs should go. So we've had Ministry of Information being merged with Ministry of Communication. Parliamentary Affairs should go. The rest should stay the same way it is. And we are saying that, look, you can pair local government and decentralization with chieftaincy, because local government is definitely about chieftaincy. There's the chiefs there. So if you really looking for another ministry to merge with this, then we should look at Ministry of chieftaincy. Now, there are some ministries that are for economic purposes, right? And we know the reason why the current government is in office. It was mainly because of economic situation that they actually kicked out the NPP administration. So let's look at the ministries that are supposed to be for economic. They're about 8, and it takes about 7.7 billion Ghana cedis to run this ministry. There is food and agriculture, very important. There is also the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Just by looking at this, you should know that you can merge food and agriculture and aquaculture. Fisheries and with fisheries. I mean,
however, I feel the trade ministry should stand alone.
Exactly, trade and industry should stand alone. Let's look at Ministry of Tourism and Arts and Culture should stand alone in a way. Energy should still be there. Yeah. So it means that if you merge fisheries and aquaculture with, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, you should be doing away with some, let's say, $300 million or Ghana cedis. Plus the other 268 million Ghana cedis that we saw, we've been able to save about 60 million Ghana cedis. So we'll keep going. Now, let's look at the ministries that are supposed to be for infrastructure purposes. You can count about 6 of them, right? How much does it take to run them? 7.3 billion Ghana cedis. Which ones do you think that, we can merge here? And which ones do you think that?
Railway with the Ministry of
Transport. Exactly. So railway. So that means we will be saving some. Railway goes to transport because that's the mother ministry. Yeah. So we'll be saving some additional 267. So now we are looking at about 900 million Ghana cedis saved.
Let's merge sanitation with works and housing.
Exactly. Sanitation and works and housing. They're almost the same way. Because it's the same sanitation, the works and housing minister who supervises all the the big drains that we see in the country and all of that. So definitely you should merge the two. So we'll be saving ourselves some almost 600 million Ghana cedis here, right?
Yeah.
Already we have 900 million Ghana cedis plus 600 million Ghana cedis. We are looking at some, 1.5 billion Ghana cedis at the moment. So just by merging some of the ministries, 1.5 billion Ghana cedis is what we've been able to save right now.
It's feasible.
It's feasible. It's really, really feasible. Now, let's look at the ones that are supposed to be for social purposes. There are 9 ministries there, right? Ministry of Education, that's the most expensive ministry to run, almost 30 billion Ghana cedis. You cannot actually not take it away.
Exactly.
It needs to stay the same way.
I don't think you can merge it with anything.
Exactly. And the fact that you want to introduce, private, education to be private secondary schools to be part of
into the
free SHS.
Policy.
Exactly.
Policy.
You also want to pay you also want to pay the academic fees for level 100s.
So you need that ministry.
You need that ministry, and definitely, if you're looking at a ministry that its budget is expected to go up under the Mahama administration, is the Ministry of Education. If they are able to find ways and means to solve the issue of, let's say, feeding, and let's say when they review the policy and they ask parents to pay for feeding, then you should know that the budget will definitely come down because feeding is the most expensive part of the free SHS program. So stay, Ministry of Education. Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations,
sports.
Youth and Sports. I think these two should stay the same way, right? We've already said that chieftaincy and religious affairs should be merged with local governments, right? So that means...
I think gender ministry should stand alone.
Yeah, gender ministry, definitely. Health ministry.
Ministry of Health as well.
So you add about 71...
stand alone because I feel, my director is questioning why I feel the gender ministry should stand alone, because I feel that women will play a lot of roles, and especially because of the passage of the affirmative action bill, we want to see women participation in a lot of politics and what have not, and that ministry is quite key.
Plus, on top of it, you have a new vice president.
So
definitely
say that again.
She might have a lot of policies that are female inclined.
So please leave it there.
Yeah, of course. We can't merge it with any other thing. Children and social protection. Even the IMF sees this ministry as very important. But this time we need a
minister that is active, that is vocal, that would accept interviews to the media. I'm hoping that the government will choose someone that is open to the media. That way we get to understand what exactly their plans are.
And in fact, if you really want to look at how important this ministry is, just look at the cost. Almost 2.4 billion Ghana cedis is needed to run the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. So it's not any ordinary ministry. I mean, it is a very important ministry. If you are ranking, if we are supposed to extend the ranking that we did to maybe about top 10, maybe you might have the Ministry of Gender Social Protection in the mix. So it is not a ministry that, I mean, you should take for granted. There's also some ministries that are supposed to be for public safety. One is the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry for Justice. Definitely, a minister has been appointed, so the president wants to keep this. Defense, Interior Ministry, and all of that. I mean, this should stay. All of them. Interior Ministry and National Security.
National Security
should be part of defense.
To defense.
Defense, yeah.
And probably Interior, because it's all security related.
But I think that then maybe we can merge, National Security and Interior, and leave defense to stand alone.
Why?
So just by, I think that these are more related. I mean, if you're looking at intelligence, it's more local. I mean, you may do external intelligence as well, but defense has the capability of doing the external intelligence for you. And if you're looking at the interior side, you can combine the two, because the police cannot work without national security. They need intelligence, although there's the CID office and all of that. So, I mean, firstly, I think that if we're able to merge these two, although maybe because of personnel, the cost might go up, I think that in total, if Mahama is able to do this and do this well, we should be able to save some close to about 3 billion Ghana cedis. Yeah.
Thank you, Isaac Ofieje, for bringing us that update. Now, let me bring in my guest on Zoom, Andrews Bidiakon. He is a local governance expert. He's also the former MC for German South. Not too long ago, if you recall that statement from the president relieving MCs and DCs of their job, he was one of the affected individuals. I also have with me Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, a political scientist. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time here on Newsdesk. I'll start with you, Dr. Asah-Asante. So far, we've seen 3 nominations. Energy Ministry as well as the Attorney General. Looking at John Mahama's pledge to run a lean government with just 60 ministers, which ministry do you feel should go?
I will begin by looking at that. But before I do, I don't even believe in the 60. I believe in 19.
19?
Yes.
Why 19, though?
Yes. 19 in the sense that if you read the Constitution, cabinet made up of, it can start from 10 and end in 19. And remember, cabinet is that small group of senior-most ministers who take important decisions with the head of state. So more important decisions are taken from cabinet. So any other minister, you are just an errand boy. The real cabinet issues are the important issues. So why don't you make it what? 19. 19, remember, by the Constitution, you are required to also create regional ministers. So 16, select 16 of them who will double as what? Ministers of state and regional ministers at the same time. So then you have what? 19 ministers, 19 ministers who are at the same time 19 regional ministers. Then you are left with 3. And leave the 3 to bigger ministries to handle.
But won't that overburden them, especially when, the conversation is now shifting towards should members of parliament still be awarded positions in ministerial roles? Wouldn't that overburden them?
I'll come to the burden, but let's look at it. Whether, we can, by this, you are going to burden them. No, who are those who do the job? They are the technocrats, the bureaucrats, the chief director and his team. And they can manage this too. Because we have seen in our history, sometimes there's a problem and one minister will handle what? Another ministry, because there's a problem there. We saw Papa Wusu handling what? 2 ministries. We saw a number of them. So they can do that with the support of what? The bureaucrats who will support them to do this. And that this one would take away what? Deputy ministers. Then the space that will be created in the bureaucracy, you employ more people to get in it so that they will learn under the feet of the experienced one. Then one day they can also take over. It can be done. Because if there's a problem and one minister is not there, normally they appoint another minister to also oversee that. How do they work? It's the bureaucrats who work. So get them, and then you have what? The 16 who will be what 16 regional ministers at the same time, 16 ministers. The bigger ministries, you look at them through your analysis, you can find the 3 bigger ministries. You give it to what? 1 person each to manage, 19. But I am not the president. The president has come out with a 60. Let's look at the 60. Whether the 60 is any meaningful figure. Yes, I've given my position, but the people that he has appointed, I started appointing them. I think that's a good one. If you look at Atto Forson, by all standards, he's a quality material. From his academic background, he is good for the job. If you look at from even experience, in Parliament, we have seen him articulating the views of Parliament clearly relative to what economics. And he's been a very fantastic, MP in that regard. So I have no doubt in my mind that he has a fair understanding of the issue, particularly so when you and I know that he was a Deputy Minister of Finance. So he is familiar with the terrain already. So going there, he's going to take the conversation to another level. If you look at that of Jinapo, his academic background speaks volume for what he can do, but also we can see that his public engagement, the work he's been doing in Parliament over the years, fantastic. He has the experience and the wherewithal to handle that ministry. Remember, he is also not a stranger in that ministry. He was a deputy minister, so he's very much aware with the programs of that place. Then come to look at the minister that is Attorney General, Dr. Aini, fantastic scholar and also a practitioner of law. He has seen the 2 wells, and then he was also a deputy Attorney General to Marita Blue. So he's familiar with that terrain. So going to another level, I have no doubt in my mind that they can dispense their duties with all the fineness that require of them.
What ministries do you feel could be merged or discarded, as the president is looking forward to appointing just 60 ministers?
If you look at education, should stay.
Okay.
Health will stay alone. Interior will stay alone.
Okay.
Roads and highway will stay alone. Defense alone. Let's go to the next place. Foreign affairs, yes, alone. Finance alone. Local government will be there alone. Information, but parliamentary affairs should completely go away.
Okay.
Yes. Then let's look at what food and agriculture should stay alone and can combine with fisheries and aquaculture. It's all about food. And then land and natural resources can stay alone. Trade and industry alone. Tourism alone. Energy alone. Next.
Well, I think that's the last slide. Yes, that is it.
Right. And then sanitation and water resources, you can box it up with what works and housing. And you are good to go. Roads, highway, and transport can be merged. Then communication can fall under, information.
Okay.
And then railway can also be part of what? Transport.
Transport ministry.
Then we are good to go.
Okay, let me come to Andrews Bidiako before I come back to you, Masasa Asante, to finalize our conversation. Andrews Bidiako, as a local governance expert, looking at government's pledge to run a lean government, which is 60 ministers, what ministry do you feel should go?
Thank you very much, my sister. Let me greet my former lecturer, Dr. Ansan. He taught me governance at the Campus School of Governance. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm fine, Doc. My sister, I will start by saying it's all well good, as the doctor has articulated. But I have a bit of challenge about the issues that doctor raised related to 19 ministers. You see, my dear, it is not about you having the idea that you want to run the government with the 19 ministers. But sometimes certain things play into consideration. Look, you have to look at regional balance, and you have to look at gender issues and all those kind of things. The religious people currently have their ministry. together with that of the chieftains. So if you are canceling it or you are taking it off, definitely some people will not be happy. So the governance structure that we have in this country has created a lot of challenges for us, especially politicians. You see, when you want to scrap some of these ministries, definitely pressure will come on you. You heard the president yesterday or 3 days ago saying that he has received a lot of CVs. People who help you in managing or winning the election, they are also there. They are looking at you. Now you have 16 regions, unlike previously when we had about 10 regions. Currently we have 16 regions. And all these regions, you see, our local people see politician as somebody, the only person who can do everything for him or her. The only thing that they think politician cannot do is to change a man to a woman or a woman to a man. So when they get to the regional or when they get to the assembly and they don't see their DC, it's like they are not part of government. When they get to the region and they don't see their regional minister, it's like they are not part of their government. So the pressure will mount from the GCE or the MCE, then that will get to the regional minister. Always when they get to the assembly and they don't see or they don't get what they want, they proceed to the region. So you cannot do away with regional ministers. If you do that, you are going to face challenges. Besides that, the kind of institutions that we have in this country, that's why politicians always prefer sending their people to some of these areas for them to manage. My dear, when you go to assembly, for example, and the DC or the MC is not around, that means the assembly is not working. When the people are just leaving the office, they ask, is chief around? If they see the chief is not around, they are gone. They don't even look at where the coordinating director is the MC or the DC that they are looking at. So the institution that we have in this country, we have not gotten to that level that will leave everything into the hands of the technocrats. If you do that, if care is not taken, your government is going to face challenges. Now, the system ministers that the president promised, I think it can work, but he's going to face a lot of challenges. For that one, there is no doubt about that.
What challenges do you foresee?
Yeah, the challenges is that there will be a lot of pressure on you. People who think they have helped you in winning the elections, they are looking at appointments. People who are religious leaders, because we have already created the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Culture and Religious Affairs, meaning these people are also there and they are waiting for you, they are watching you. Immediately you scrap their ministry, they are going to have challenges with you.
But you need money to run government, and if you are struggling with your finances and you're already under an IMF program, you have to look at cutting costs. Now, let me bring your opinion on this, because I'm just thinking the conversation is now moving towards, should we allow members of parliament be appointed in ministerial roles because of the burden? What do you think? Should we maintain that? Should we look at reviewing that?
Yeah, for that one, I think we need to do something about it. Because when you do that, always you see that the executive is controlling the judicial, the legislature, and I don't think that's the best way to go. But because of the president that we have in 1979, that has brought all these things. For me, if we are able to do something about it, the earlier the better, because now the president's hand is tied, that he should appoint not less than 30% of his ministers from not less than 50% of ministers from parliament. Currently, as he's going to run 60 ministries, as he said, if he can go by that, meaning more than 30 members of parliament should be ministers of state, or they should be ministers. But my dear, before I go to the other point, you see, your presenter made mention of savings. So I was just listening and I was just laughing. What kind of savings are we talking about here? Is it about salaries? Because when you scrap these ministries, all the technocrats, all the civil servants who work in these ministries, you cannot sack them. So their salaries will be paid by all means. So are we talking about savings or the money that we use in paying the minister or his deputies? Is that the savings that we are talking about? Because these monies that we are talking about, when the ministry is removed or is scrapped, definitely these monies will be given to the emerging ministry that you have created. And those monies are going to be used. So I don't see where we are talking about savings. Because when you take, let's say, Minister of Foreign Affairs, for example, away, and you leave Minister of Local Government, there are people who are supposed to be working, or there are people who were working at the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and they are technocrats. You cannot sack them. So the savings that we are talking about, which kind of savings are we talking about?
Okay, as we wrap up the conversation, I just want to get your thoughts on this, both you and Dr. Asante. Now, as part of the recommendations put forward by the Constitutional Review Committee, they are proposing that we place a cap on the number of ministers appointed. We're seeing this administration telling us that they would like to work with just 60 ministers. The previous administration, they were working with more than 100 ministers. And so we're just wondering, should we place a cap on the number of ministers that should be appointed as we wrap up the conversation? I'll take your thoughts, Andrews, and then I'll come to Dr. Asante.
Yeah, I think it is good we do that. We all have to come together and see how best we can address such an issue, so that going forward, we will not have any president who would think that let me appoint more than 200 ministers or more than 100 ministers or whatever number. So if we all agree that the 60 or the, because Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia also promised about 50, and I can't remember Alan Chinemantin also promised about 40. So if we come to the level like, okay, let's make sure we have 50 ministers, and all Ghanaians, we debate this and we agree on that, I think that is the way to go, and we all agree that this is the way to go, so that in future nobody will come and think that, oh, okay, let me appoint 100 ministers or 200 ministers. If care is not taken, somebody will also even appoint more than 200 ministers, and I don't think that is the best way to go. So let us all agree on something that going forward, let's say we have 50 ministers across, and that will be a yardstick or a measure for every government that will rule this country.
Dr. Asante, your thoughts? Doc, you have to unmute. I was just finding out the recommendation made by the Constitutional Review Committee led by Clara T. They recommended that we should place a cap on the number of ministers appointed. That way every government can work with that number. Do you agree?
I agree, but I don't subscribe. Yes, I agree. If we place a cap, we find a certain number which is fine. Well, we should do that so that we reduce cost in this area. But before I will sign off, I have just put down my 19 ministries, and I want to...
Please share them with me. I'm curious.
Them. 1, finance. 2, interior. 3, defense. 4, trade. 5, information. 6, local government. 7, attorney general. 8, education. Youth. 9, roads. 10, 11, gender. 12, health. 13, foreign affairs. 15, labor. 16, chieftaincy. 17, agric. 18, youth and sports, and I still have 1 more. We can do that. We can do that.
You still have 1 more left.
So, yeah, what of the regional ministers?
The regional ministers are going to be in here. We are going to select 16. So a minister will hold 2 portfolios. He's a minister of state and a regional minister. Yes, because we've seen that. Remember Kufuor's time, there was a problem, and Mr. Deborah, yes, Deborah was made a minister, and he was also supervising a region and all that. It's done. We can do that. And then the civil servants will support us. 19, no deputy minister. And then we are good to go. I have got 18. It's practical. It can be done.
Could be done, but will it be done? That's the question we'll be asking. And we're wondering which government will implement that.
We should be able to do this. But you see, I can understand the pressure from the government and other people. If you look at my friend, Mr. Bediako, he talk about the pressure and all that. But you see, in governance, you should not be afraid to step on toes. Otherwise, you remain still. There is a book that I will recommend for you to read, the preface. It's written by Madeleine Albright. And the title of the book is that The Mighty and the Almighty. If you read the foreword written by Bill Clinton, he said that in politics, one should not shy away from stepping on toes. Otherwise, you remain still. So, Mr. President, step on toes and don't remain still and move on.
Thank you, Dr. Asante.
No, you continuously doing that, and you are preparing to go to opposition. I tell you.
So you're looking at the political angle of it.
Yes, because, my dear, you see, if you are a politician, what you need is that you need power to implement your policies. If you don't have power, you can't implement. If you have all the good ideas, intentions and purposes, whatever, and you don't have power, you can't implement it. So the aim of every politician is to get power. And if you want to step on toes, because Doctor is an academician, I understand him, but looking at the kind of politics that we do in Ghana and the institutions that we have in Ghana, I don't think we have gotten to a point that we think we need 90 ministries to run this country. I don't think so.
But
because
as a leader, you cannot be walking on eggshells around your followers. You have to take the initiative. In our local dialect, they say, Usra undi.
Okay,
thank you so much, Andrews Vidiako is a local governance expert. Oh, just before I let you go, how does it feel now that you've lost your position as the former, as the MC for German South?
Oh, I feel good, my dear. You see, when I was going to take up this position, I had in mind the consequences and the outcome. Any moment that a president can even wake up in the morning and relieve you of your position. Unlike when your government has also lost power. Definitely, you know, you are not going to continue to be an MC. So I knew all the consequences. So I am good. And currently, looking at the time that I was the MC, every day before you wake up, you have already had people in front of your house knocking on your door, people calling you 100 times a day, and all these things are no more there. And I'm even relaxed. I think going forward, we'll have time to also, because the job is not all that easy as we have taken it. I tell you, it's not all that easy. But if you are sitting at the back, you think it is rosy out there. It is not at all. But now we have peace of mind. We have life to live. And I think we are looking forward to see how life will also take us.
Thank you, Andrews Vidiako, a local governance expert, also former MC for German South. And also had with me Dr. Sir Asante, a political scientist. Now, away from that, President John Mahama has announced plans to establish a planning committee for a national education review conference, which will address challenges and reform Ghana's educational system from kindergarten up to the tertiary level. While speaking during his first public engagement after being sworn in as president at the 92nd Annual National Jalsa Convention of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission at Pomaze in the Central Region. He said that the proposed National Education Review Conference will come out with new ideas on how to transform the educational sector. There's more in this report.
Cheers for President Mahama as he arrived at Pomaze for the annual National Jalsa or Convention of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission Ghana. The event was John Mahama's first public engagement after he was sworn in as president. Speaking at the event, John Mahama promised to prioritize the passage of a code of conduct for public officials in his new government. He also announced plans to establish a planning committee for a national education review conference which aims to address challenges and reform Ghana's educational system.
I'm going to set up a planning committee to start working on the National Education Review Conference that I promised. This conference will review our educational system right from the kindergarten through the basic to secondary to tertiary to technical, vocational education, and identify what the hindrances to quality education are at each level of our educational system. I believe that this conference will come out with new ideas in order to provide us the outcomes that we need as a nation.
John Mahama also shared plans about the National Constitution Review Conference.
The new NDC administration is resolutely committed to strengthening our justice system to ensure judicial independence and address the systemic inequalities that currently exist. I can assure you that this administration will work tirelessly to ensure that every Ghanaian, regardless of your status or background, is treated with dignity and afforded equal protection under the law. To achieve this objective of justice, we would have to move the stalled constitutional review process forward. To achieve this, I would soon establish a committee to begin the planning of a National Constitutional Review Validation Conference to achieve broad consensus on the way forward for the constitutional amendments that we have all proposed.
Speaking at the event, head and missionary in charge of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission urged John Mahama to prioritize good governance.
Hostilities must cease immediately, and each and every person must rally around the person who has been elected and give him all the necessary support to ensure that he is successful. Because his success will be your success as a people. Therefore, I want him to rest assured that he has our solid support. I say this without looking back. And I say this for and on behalf of all the Muslims of this country. Our version of the obnoxious racism which once existed in Nazi Germany, our version of it is nepotism and cronyism.
Guest speaker Justice Said Kwekuja Naib urged persons in the justice delivery system to ensure fairness and transparency.
The outcome of the 7th December 2024 elections constitutes the clearest and most comprehensive message to the Ghanaian political class and social elite that the ordinary Ghanaian citizen can no longer and should no more ever be taken for granted. The overwhelming votes cast for the new government may be a historical advantage to the new president and his team in government. However, it equally represents a quintessential premonition and clear warning to discard the arrogance of power and impunity, to assume an open and listening ear, to stay focused on pursuing national developmental goals.
So watching News6, we'll be back with business updates. Please stay tuned in.
Good morning, welcome to Joy Business. Here we bring you updates with regards to the business community. Now to our first business story. The National Petroleum Authority has shut down recommendation from the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies to review the cylinder recirculation model. The model is a distribution system for LPG that allows consumers to exchange empty cylinders for filled ones. According to the Chief Executive of the Chamber, Dr. Riverson, the policy is facing challenges and is likely to cause disaffection among consumers due to price instability.
On several media platforms. CRM is not a bad thing. And let me tell you, the AOMC, the LPGMCs, none of our members is against CRM. Not our chairman, not the subcommittee of sub-member of LPGMCs being against it. None of us against CRM. My personal issue with CRM has to do with the way it was implemented. And again, when I sat down with MPA and I shared my vision with them around CRM, I was told it was too late because it hadn't been implemented. So it makes sense, but it can't be taken. It's good to have CRM so that it increases the penetration rate. All the CRM is doing is to make sure that the product is accessible to everybody. Okay, that's the thing. I think what intrigued our members, especially with our LPG marketers, concern had to do with the $80 that was slashed on the price. And I also have a personal issue with it because today, the understanding is that the $80 was meant to pay for the cylinders and the bottling plant. All right? And these are my two issues here. From here, drive to any CRM offtake point that you want to start take CRM cylinders. They will charge you for the cylinder. I've tried it. I went to a nearby station. I'm using CRM. I went and I had to pay for the bottle. I told them that MPA says that the bottle cost is in the gas, so I'm not supposed to pay. They still took the money. So it's not double counting. And what's MPA doing about it? So the money that they've taken so far till now, that they are using to pay for the bottles, which bottles are they paying for? And which bottles are we also paying for? This is a big error that we need to take very seriously.
Now, moving on, EcoBank Ghana PLC says it will give a moratorium to customers affected by Katamanto Market. Managing Director Abena Osei-Poku said the bank will continue to engage its clients in the market and beyond. She spoke to Joy Business after paying a visit to the affected customers.
PLC Abena Osei-Poku, after the affected customers, said the bank will continue to support these customers financially with concessionary interest rates.
So at EcoBank, we are always looking for opportunities, not just to do business, but also to do good. Being one of the systemically important banks in our country, and of course having supported SMEs from our inception, once we heard of the fire outbreak and the repercussions for our customers, I thought it was very necessary that I lead my team to come and commiserate with them and to empathize with them, and above all of that, to show our support. And that's why we've decided to support them financially with concessionary interest rates and a moratorium and flexible interest rates. Indeed, we've also taken them through the various products and solutions we have that would help them. For us, banking is a relationship, it's a partnership, and therefore it's very important that we support one another regardless of the times.
EcoBank Ghana PLC has indicated that it will continue to engage various key stakeholders to deepen collaboration.
That's all for business. For more business update, visit myjoyonline.com/business for a lot of stories there. My name is Winston Taki. Over to Fosti for the rest of the bulletin.
Thank you, Winston, for bringing us that update on business. For more news, please, you know where to go, to myjoyonline.com. That's how we wrap up the bulletin. My name is Faustina. Have a good morning as you enjoy the rest of our programs.
Okay.